Someone asked a question about projectile speed under an old video. I answered that question at the time, but now I'm thinking it could be a good idea for the series. So let's answer and take a quick look at what you can do with projectiles in general. This is episode 3 of How to Mod It. So for this introduction to projectiles, we'll look at various things, how to set the main and secondary projectiles, how to create a volley, smart targeting, and even target ground. But first, let's start by answering the question about speed. So what you have to realize is that setting a speed for a unit is very easy. You just have to pick a unit and change the speed stats at the top of the unit page. But you have to realize that projectiles are also units. So I believe the question was about the trebuchet. So let us take the trebuchet, for example. This is the unit page of the trebuchet. We go down and we can see speed 0, well, when it's packed anyway. And if we go down a bit, we see projectile 371. So here, for every unit that has a projectile, this is where the projectile will be. So this is the main projectile, secondary projectile, self-explanatory, that's the secondary one. Then you also have total projectile, max amount of projectile, which dictate how many projectile the unit has. So let's say the Choconu will have more projectile than, for example, the trebuchet, which is only 1. So now that we found which projectile is linked to it, we can find it here. We can search for it, but here it's actually named projectile trebuchet. It's not always that convenient, but here just click on 371 projectile trebuchet. And then we can scroll up a bit and see the speed 3.5 for the projectile of the trebuchet. So if we want to help the person that has a question, we just have to change that value. Simple as that. So, but it's not intuitive really because, yeah, projectile unit, you just have to realize that. But once you realize that, you can search any projectile you want. And here, for example, we'll just change it to 13. Why not? It will be really fast. So it won't increase the speed of the trebuchet itself, how fast it fires, but the projectile will hit the ground way faster. And that's how it is. And if we scroll down to the projectile section again, you can see here there's no projectile to the projectile, which makes sense. And we have a bunch of other stats that we can change. The projectile arc is self-explanatory, I think. Like it is the arc, how high it will go before it hits the ground. There's different units that have different arc, so just play with that and you can see how high or how straight you want the projectile to be. Smart mode is pretty much ballistic. So if it's 0, there's no ballistic. If it has a value of 1, it will have ballistic, and then I believe there's 2 or 3 as well. So if you mouse over it, I believe it says 0 or 1, but there's also, they also added 2 and 3, which is, so 1 is ballistic, 2 would be, if it misses, it still do full damage, so like the Arambai. So I believe we can go do a quick check real quick. If we check Arambai, so Arambai right here, 1169 for the projectile. And there you go, smart mode is at 2 for the projectile of the Arambai. So that's pretty much the classic with the Arambai. Like, it has no accuracy, but even if it misses, full damage, so that's nice. And 3 would be ballistic combined with, if it misses, it will also deal full damage. So that's how smart mode work. You have to modify the projectile itself though. And as you can see, the arc of the Arambai is minus 0.08. I believe if it's minus, it will start higher and go down faster. Something like that. You'd have to play with it. I don't really play with the arc as much. So that's what it was for the trebuchet. So just quick answer. We just change the speed. Oops, right here. Oops, no, that is in the projectile section, sorry. So 13 speed, that's what our trebuchet will have. So now, let's see what we can do with other unit. So let's go with the throwing axeman. Let's try to change some things with it. Let's increase its range first, because why not? So we increase its range, and then we go down to projectile section. And what we want, we can see here, projectile tax. TAX, probably for throwing axe, something like that. We want to increase the number of projectile it has. So simply place it at 6, and we also have to modify the max total projectiles. It is used for other things, but just for now, just have it the same, and that will be the amount of projectile it uses. Now, if you set up a secondary projectile, so you have to know that, I'm pretty sure it's true for everything, but if you set up a secondary projectile, and let's say you have 6 projectiles, you will have only one of the main projectile, and in this case, 5 of the secondary projectile. That is how it works in the game, as far as I know, for everything. Now, we have throwing axeman here, set up projectile, and let's say we want to have all those projectiles be thrown at the same time. So have a volley, much like the Kipchak. If that's the case, we have to go down a bit and find the break off combat. That is very unintuitive. It's in the obsolete variables section. It's not very obsolete because we use that section from time to time. And what we want is set the... That's pretty much a combat ability. How I believe it's recognized inside the game. So break off combat is the same thing as combat ability. So we want combat ability 16. So if we set up to 16, this will give a bulk volley release. Pretty much meaning that we're like the Kipchak, he'll throw all his axes at the same time. So the 6 axes we set in there, all at the same time, will be released. And if we want to go wilder, because why not, combat ability 8 is attack ground. So 8 is attack ground. Now you're asking, okay, but where's the 16 now? Did I remove it? Yes. So, but they are combinable. So if you add them to each other, so 16 plus 8 is 24. So if you set it to 24, you'll have bulk of release and a target ground ability. So we'll go with that. We can there's other option as well, but this is what we want for projectile, which can be really nice. So that's going to be something set up for that. And finally, what I wanted to show is a trail. So a smoke trail. There's some unit with that. I believe the newest one, the Fire Archer, has a pretty nice animation for that. And we'll put it for our crossbowman. Why not? Let's go crossbowman, and you can see right under it, projectile crossbowman must be what we're looking for. Let's just scroll up to be sure. So projectile section 364 and 1930. So there's already a secondary projectile set up, probably for some civ that have some bonus with them. But for us, if there's only one projectile, even if the secondary one is set, only the main one, the main one will be used. So 364 projectile crossbowman, and then let us set. So what do I want? Yes, the trail. Ah, there you go. If you scroll down a bit, we have trailing unit. So this is pretty much the trail that will be created, and you can set a trail mode and a trail density. Trail mode is usually always 2, as far as I know, and the density can be whatever you want. So either more particle or less particle. So in this case, I believe I remember it is 1799. So if you want to find all of them, you can write smoke. And I believe there might be more, but that's one way of finding some of them. Couple smoke trail right here. But for us, let's go back to crossbow. Trailing unit. Oops. I have to go in projectile. So 1799. Trail mode 2 and density, let's say 1.5. I'm unsure of like how it works. You can make some tests to see what works better for you. So trail smoke of fire for this, and here again, break off combat. We'll go for the crossbowman though. It's already set as 16. Not sure why, because it's bulk volley release, but probably it doesn't change anything because it only creates one projectile, so doesn't matter. And we'll do the same thing as we did with the throwing axeman. So we'll set ground targeting ability. So let's go with 24. 16 plus 8. 8 being the attack ground ability. So 24 here. And then that's pretty much everything I wanted to show, I believe. So let's go jump in the game. So here I already had the unit ready. So if we check the trebuchet and we attack ground, look at this. Projectile way faster than a normal trebuchet unit. Throwing Axeman now, I set up the range at 8 plus 1 because of the unique attack. And then, as you can see, bulk release of all the axe, so that's 6 projectile being thrown all at once. And you can see here 5 because it's always your main projectile plus the additional one, so 6 total in this case. And finally, if we look, ground targeting ability and the smoke trail right here, which is, I believe it's the one from the fire archer. And you can set it up to be denser, less dense, and that's pretty much it. That's a ton of things you can do with projectiles. Just an introduction. There's way more thing, but this is just a quick little video, hopefully. There you go. Have a good one.